Well, we begin things out in New York. Might we have seen the last of quarterback Daniel Jones in the Big Apple? Well, coming out of their bye, the $160 million quarterback is headed to the bench as the offense turns to Tommy DeVito as their starter. In a corresponding move, Jones will now serve as the team's third-string quarterback with Drew Lock backing up DeVito. Here's more on what head coach Brian Daboll had to say in regards to the quarterback move.
After evaluating a bunch of things and looking at a lot of tape and being around Tommy last year where he created a little bit of a spark for us. That's the reason why we're going with Tommy. Drew will be the backup. Continue to work with him. He's been nothing but a pro, and as was Daniel. So it's never an easy conversation to have with the players, but felt like this was a necessary move for us, and look forward to working with Tommy and getting him ready to go against Tampa.
Well, they're division rival Commanders with no quarterback questions. Jayden Daniels is their guy, but finally starting to show some rookie mistakes in his last two games with Washington, the most recent being a 28-20 loss to the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. Jayden suffered a rib injury earlier this season and has had to miss practice time on several occasions while dealing with it. Here's what Dan Quinn had to say about the impact of his absence on offense.
Jayden is not injured right now, but we did lose valuable practice time, John, with him and his teammates when he was injured. And that's hard on all the guys. It's a really, really important part of what we do, and we don't have banked reps in years, so we're very much looking forward to getting back onto a full week and regular practice sessions with the guys. So over the last few weeks, we've had to, put that together in small bits. So that's what I think into that space, and as we're heading into this week, we're looking forward to getting a full week of our practice and work the things that we need to.
Well, things going from bad to worse in Duval. Jaguars coming off their worst loss in franchise history, a 52-6 drubbing at the hands of the Lions, dropping to 2-9 on the season. As they now enter a much-needed bye week, Jacksonville deciding not to make any major coaching or personnel decisions on Monday, despite the loss. Doug Peterson taking full ownership of the Jags' struggles as of late.
I think you got to be really, really careful when you start pointing fingers at certain people. It's a dangerous thing, and I'm not going to do that. Not doing it. Not right now, because that's, as a head coach in this league, that's going through what we're going through. You're pointing a finger, and if it's going to be pointed, it needs to be pointed at me. Start with me, right? So that's enough on that.
We're now joined by CBS Sports NFL analyst John Breech, and perhaps the Giants making a move that many might have argued should have happened weeks ago after their lackluster season and lackluster play by Daniel Jones. After averaging an NFL of 15.6 points per game, it's now Tommy time in the Meadowlands, and DeVito, that is, undrafted quarterback, handed the keys to the offense yet again. But if you recall, John, he seemed to maybe spark the Giants' offense in his 6 starts as a rookie last year. But what are your expectations this time around for the Giants' offense?
Well, Kiana, we all remember last year when we caught Tommy DeVito fever. We were kissing the pizza. We were having a fun time. And you know what? Look, Tommy DeVito was only a starter for 6 games last season. He went 3-3 in those games. He won as many games in 6 starts as Daniel Jones has won in his past 17 starts. Daniel Jones 3-14 in his past 17 starts. So this felt like a no-brainer decision if you're the Giants, because at this point you have nothing to lose. Your season is spiraling down the drain. You have 6 seasons worth of film on Daniel Jones that shows you he's just not getting much better. So why not give it to the guy who gave you that spark last season, see what he can do, and turn him loose? And so I think that you look at the Giants, they kind of have these weapons on offense that are getting better every week. Malik Neighbors, as huge playmaker, obviously. Wan'Dale Robinson, Tyrone Tracy. They just have a lot of guys. They just have to get that quarterback situation figured out. So if Tommy DeVito could go in and play smart football, maybe he leads the Giants to 2 or 3 wins just like he did last season. And if that happens, hey, look, then everybody's going to be doing the Tommy DeVito around Thanksgiving.
It's a perfect time for that, too. A 22-44 record under Daniel Jones. Maybe that spark. We'll get another look at that this time around. But the Commanders, much better position for their future at quarterback with the second overall pick, Jayden Daniels. But, John, after just the way he's played in these last few weeks and the comments made by Quinn on Monday, is there any cause for concern offensively in Washington?
Well, I think it's interesting because Dan Quinn's saying he's not injured. Does that mean he's 100% healthy? Or does that just mean he's not injured enough to be held out of a game? Because, look, the Commanders can say whatever they want. Jayden Daniels initially suffered this injury in Week 7. And in the 4 games since then, the offense has gone downhill. Jayden Daniels has not been Jayden Daniels. He hasn't run the ball as well. He was averaging over 50 yards per game rushing before the injury. That went down to 32 yards per game in the 4 games after. His accuracy has been thrown off. His 2 least accurate games of the year came after the injury. And as Dan Quinn said, he didn't practice as much, so surely that throws the offense a little bit out of sync. But also, if you're Jayden Daniels and you have a rib injury, you're a walking target on the field. So that's something you worry about. Maybe you hesitate to take off running because you're afraid of those big hits. But now he does have that 10-day break that he just had from Week 11 to Week 12. And that's probably what Dan Quinn's saying here, that, look, our quarterback is finally healthy. And when he gets on the field against the Cowboys, we expect the Jayden Daniels in Week 12 to be the Jayden Daniels we saw in Week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 before that injury. So as long as that's the guy we see and the Commanders are back to what they were earlier in the season, I don't think there's a huge cause for concern. But if he's still kind of hesitant because the ribs are still bothering him a little bit, that could be an issue.
Yeah, they're hosting both Dallas, followed by a matchup against Tennessee, then getting to that Week 14 bye. So looking to make it through there so we can get a little bit of rest before picking things up to close out the season. But, John, you know what they say sometimes? You know how they say no news is good news? Well, maybe no news coming out of Jacksonville after that embarrassment of a performance against the Lions over the weekend. Maybe it's positive news for Doug Peterson. His job put into question after that historic loss, but perhaps living to coach another day as they head into their bye. But just how are you rationalizing Jacksonville's decision, or maybe lack thereof, when it comes to Peterson holding on to his role after suffering their 9th loss of the year?
Well, it was interesting because there was just so much smoke over the weekend, and then you suffer the largest loss in franchise history. And now you're going into a bye. If you are going to fire your coach, now is the absolute time to do it. I think people were probably a little shocked that Doug Peterson even showed up for his press conference on Monday because they assumed that he was going to be let go before that happened, but it didn't happen. So I think if you're Jags owner Shad Khan, there's probably 2 schools of thought here. Number one is, you know what? This guy led us to the playoffs 2 years ago. He led us to 2 straight winning seasons, which doesn't happen in Jacksonville often. Let's just let him finish out the season. I'll dump him in January. We'll figure out things then. And on that school of thought, Doug Peterson keeps his job for the rest of the season. The other school of thought is, you know what? Let's just get rid of him. This has been a total disaster. Let's move on right now. So I do think it will be interesting to see what Shad Khan does. And at this point, nothing he does will surprise me. If he wakes up tomorrow morning and fires Doug Peterson, I won't be surprised. If Peterson's coaching till Week 18 in January, I won't be surprised. Khan is the guy who fired Urban Meyer at midnight in December a couple years ago. So he's just, whatever wheels are spinning, he's going to fire him whenever he wants to. But I think if you're Doug Peterson, look, he's out there. He's still doing his press conferences. He still wants to get this thing turned around. But I think no matter what happens, we can all agree that Doug Peterson is not going to be in Jacksonville much longer.
Yeah, I don't quite see that happen post-January. But, I mean, hey, you know what? Sometimes a little rest and relaxation in the bye, maybe they come out firing. You never know. Stranger things have happened, John. But, hey, as for that team that throttled them, the Lions poised for another deep playoff run after years of futility. So deep, in fact, that they are currently the favorites to win the Super Bowl. And this is the first time in franchise history, currently plus 350 on FanDuel. So, John, as someone with high expectations for the Lions coming into this season, for some of us, is it time to jump aboard that hype train?
Hey, look, what a time to be alive. Let me just say that first. The Detroit Lions are the Super Bowl favorite. This team has existed The Super Bowl's existed since 1966. The Lions have never been the all-out favorite. This is mind-blowing. I've been on the bandwagon since the preseason. Jared Goff was my preseason MVP pick. The Lions were my preseason Super Bowl team. I love the Lions. This is, from top to bottom, the best team in the NFL. I thought they should have been a favorite a few weeks ago just because they've been playing better football than Kansas City has, even when the Chiefs were undefeated. They're really hands down the best team in the NFC. There are a couple competitors in the AFC, but you look at Jared Goff is playing at such a high level right now. Sonic and Knuckles out there in that backfield. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs are just this unstoppable 1-2 punch. You have 6 receivers who have over 200 yards receiving. It is just an offense where you don't know what to do, how to stop them, and they're just piling up points every single week. So, Kiana, I hope you were on the Detroit Lions bandwagon because I think that thing might be driving all the way to New Orleans. And I know that people don't like to bet the favorites because the value isn't always great, but this might be the one time where it makes some sense.
Oh, John Breech rolling with the Lions coming into the season and certainly making his case as we sit in week 11 of the season and putting up points like it's nobody's business. I think that's why you and I were on one accord with the outfits today. Smart man. That's my guy, John Breech. As always, we appreciate you stopping by. And CBS has a monster slate of games on tap for Week 12, and we'll have you covered for all of them with post-game highlights, recaps, on-field interviews, and so much more right here on CBS Sports HQ. Watch live on the CBS Sports app or stream on Paramount+.